What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Tahyira Show. This is Talk 26, and we're in a new year. Happy 2024 to you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like this content on this channel, be sure you subscribe so you don't miss a talk ever. This one is about my marriage. A couple weeks ago, I celebrated my 6th year. Hold it, make it clear, because me and my husband go back and forth all the time. It's like, is it 6 years? Is it 12 years? It's like, don't do that. But 6 years last year, and I feel good enough to not confidently to talk about things. So this one is about 6 different lessons that I learned from the 6 times I almost filed divorce. Not kidding. Welcome back. Happy New Year. Lesson 1, fighting. The day you don't want to fight is the day you stop caring. So the fighting is a sign that your marriage is alive. I literally wrote that down. I'm like, say it exactly like this because I thought about this. I wanted this to be clear. Fighting, right? Let's break down fighting a little bit when it comes to relationships. Because I think when people hear you say, oh, you're fighting, duh. It's like, first of all, Frank is the only person that I actually fight with in the world. Literally everybody else is like, you do whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't care. We don't have a contract with this man to stay together for the rest of our lives. If we don't have an argument, if we don't figure out, excuse me. It's like, I don't even know why I would even want, it would scare me, So it's like, understand your maturity level going in, understand what it is you actually want, and understand how people get things done. It's like working in anything. When you get into a back and forth with your co-worker because you're all invested into the work. This is just getting up. I work in film and TV. So it's like, without us going back and forth, there is nothing for the audience to feed off. It's like, oh, everybody just homogenous here. It's like, that's not real life. You came to see drama. You came to see a fight. It's like you came to see something, So it's like, start there, right? It's like, think about the movies and stuff that we watch. Think about the Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And it's like, when we talk about fighting, this is what we're talking about. It's like, child, you try to kill me too. Which, it's like, it has to already be there because we're talking about marriage and not boyfriend and girlfriend. When we were boyfriend and girlfriend and manager and client, we would argue every day. It's like, I don't understand what you're saying. And we would just defend and debate. And I'm like, I don't see that. I don't know what you script. And I'm like, I didn't see that at all. And it's like, oh, what do you mean? Because you want to come with your whole, and then we always keep the fighting alive. Here's one time. One of the times in California, I'm like, I don't even want to fight with you anymore. And it's because I was going through my own thing. I had just got into therapy. I was dealing with stuff with my childhood trauma and all that stuff. And I'm like, I didn't have the energy to deal with myself into new stuff and him, who I assumed already, you just became my husband. I don't even know why we're having this argument at all. So I stopped arguing. 2-3 weeks went on without arguing. And I'm like, I think we made a mistake. We should file an annulment. He's like, what is your problem now? And I'm like, we don't even fight anymore. You realize that we just moving? He's like, well, we're in a honeymoon phase. We just got married. You want to be fighting? I'm like, child, what's going on? Your marriage or your relationship or your human being self will always just go through peaks and valleys. I think that's probably the running theme of this entire Tahyira show, right? 26 peaks and valleys. Sometimes we up, sometimes you're lit, sometimes you're in honeymoon zone. Sometimes it's like, I want to argue just to make sure that we're still close. That's what the fighting comes in. That's what I'm pushing him. You're not mad? I didn't get you mad? It's my wife and what? So yeah, I included that in my therapist. My therapist you have to learn to compartmentalize. You're dealing with your childhood shit. You want to go through that. You're also an adult that just said that you wanted to be married to somebody else. And you already tried to give him an out for the mental health and it didn't work. So you figure out what you're going to do. Keep that shit separate. I'm like, that kind of segues me into the second lesson. It's very easy for independent women like me to struggle with the codependency that being a wife requires, right? To be successful in wifehood is to be great at being a codependent person. For me, it was the biggest struggle. Not trying to lose your independent self, not just trying to become his little wife. I mean, this is where Beyonce's music comes in while I'm in the Beehive now. And it's like, without Lemonade, and I said that in the previous video, without having some people, without Michelle Obama talking about the bad times, and I had to just be there for 10 years being unhappy. And it's like, you could be the president. I got to raise these kids. Without some kind of something as a Black woman, it's very hard to see. I come from parents that are divorced. I come from families that are broken. So it's not like you have something to see. My grandparents were the only really thing that I had, and they lived in Trinidad. So I spent the least amount of time out of all the people in my life around them. I've always tried to be my grandparents had been together and they were just retired. And you know what I mean? My grandpa kind of was just, he kind of low-key died too. My grandmother died. He has someone now and it's going, but they were that marker for me, and I'm like, So it was around the time where I was getting into New York. I was here already, but I had like paused on my mental health stuff. So I got back into therapy and stuff. And I was like, I know for me, the devil mind, idle minds or the devil workshop was starting to happen. So I came at him again and I'm like, all right, we made this whole life plan. I understand that like things change. You're in California. I'm back in New York now. I'm trying to figure things out. We're trying to figure things out to get my ID. Child is like, I don't even have an ID, all kind of stuff. He ended up coming back. COVID ended up coming 6 months later. So, I mean, it's whatever, everything happens. But just at the time, I'm like, what are we about to do? I wrote a song, played around, put it out under this name called T Slaves. I was like, you know what? I'm about to just whatever. He gave me the name T Slaves years ago when I was an activist. That was like what he used to call me on like my activist name. It's like, you're not just Tahyira or whatever. It's like, you're like T Slave, you out here like for the black people. And I'm like, that's a funny name, T Slaves. Like reverse the whole how we have slave names legitimate. Like my grandmother's name, I'm talking about my grandparents, they have slave names and just put slaves. I've always thought that was creative and funny. I come back now, write the song, whatever, flash forward, and I'm like, our relationship basically just changed. It went from primarily being the manager client, and that's what sustained us, to like just we're husband and wife. We help each other out. This is what you do. This is what I do. And but it took trying to figure out the codependency thing, right? It's like, well, if you're living there, I'm living here. We're literally back to being independent. So how does codependency work when we're both trying to just maintain ourselves? Like, what are we doing here? And then you also have to maintain your marriage. Like, people start asking, why you and broke it up? I'm like, if one more person asks me what's going on and I don't have a clear answer, it's over. It's just like legit. And he's like, what do you mean? Tell them my fucking business. And I'm like, that's not, I already did that. I already said that to defend us. But like, between me and you, what is going on? Are we broken up? Like, so yeah, so that went through that. But again, and you lose your footing sometimes in marriage. You're still young. You're still getting new into your marriage. It's like, I don't really know what we're really doing, child. But I don't think this is it. Don't give up, though. God is always with us, right? He's working with us. What had happened? The song came out. I became an artist. I'm up to my fifth. Always maintain yourself, but also recognize that you got to go back home. I feel like a lot of us be like, you're trying to pull a gone girl. Like I was saying that to my husband. Like, I'm going to just be a gone girl, child. And they're going to say that you murdered me because now they can't find me like in the movie. Yeah. Remember the movie Gone Girl when you're in these spaces and it's like a lot of stuff that she was saying was a fact. You keep that energy up. And they tell you all the time that I thought I lost myself to the point where I was like, I can't. So Michelle Obama gives me a lot of confidence and courage to talk about, marital stuff. I loved how they always use storytelling in their branding. You could say, this is my version of spilling the tea. So a quick background for those of you who don't know, I met my husband, Frank. We were friends. We met just like hanging out, smoking weed, chilling. Then quickly realized that we kind of saw the world the same way. We recognized that we liked film and Hollywood and all these things. And we were at the point where we didn't have anything else to do. So we created a whole brand and a whole thing. And that's kind of like how our relationship formed. I was the manager and people would just be like, oh my God, you guys, I have such a vibe here. And just the energy that people would tell us, it made us closer by default. I think we look back and we just say we were meant to be together. Everything that happened to us was supposed to happen in the way that it happened. And it's like, that's just what this level of love that we're able to share is. We also hit a lot of backlash. Like, there's a lot of people who are jealous of us, who try to be our friends and then try to emulate what we have in their relationship. And it's always been very super clear to us, but we never talk about it, right? We don't talk about relationships out here in the open. We talk about it amongst each other. When I told him I was making this video, I was like, listen, I'm about to just start saying some stuff that we've been fucking past anyway. We're about to encounter new things as we go deeper into this marriage. So there's shit that we could definitely talk about that we're like not there anymore, where people can learn from. Starting with 6 different lessons. And I think in producing this, I'm like, should I talk about all the good times? I'm like, no, like that's not gonna help people. Like people already hating on the good times, right? You know what I mean? People are like, oh my God, I'm happy for you. But also like you want that. You want to have a husband. You don't want to just be a baby mother. I get that. I feel that energy all the time. As much as we're best friends, as much as it's anointed by the universe and everything, we're probably meant to be together in Hollywood. Still, I almost filed divorce. It's like, it's not for me. Because I want to highlight the difficultness, right? I want to highlight the struggle and why it makes it important. I think that's what Michelle Obama does. She tells the story so that people can learn. Let's see what we could do. Lesson 4, money HAFI make. That's what I literally wrote down, money HAFI make. Money, I think money is the number one thing why people file divorce here. Money and infidelity. I don't even think it's infidelity though. I think it's money in the United States because we live in a democratic corporation and as I'm growing up, just in my own personal life, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a Black person, and I cancel student loan debt. Everything is coming more expensive. Nothing's going up. Your paycheck, nobody's being paid what they're supposed to. Everybody's just, you know what I mean? We're like all here. It's given another election year, child. I don't know. The way we address ourselves with money and little things like that makes the difference, because you can attach yourself to it and be like, I'm going to let this be the end all be all of my situation and my marriage and my life. Or you can see your situation like, I don't really care about money. Like one of us will be up. You literally have to not care. But we're human beings and we live in this democratic corporation and we're seasoned and programmed as slaves OD to like, all right, I worked, like what's going on? And then you think it's somebody else. It's like, well, I'm working and you took it. And it's like, where's my bread? What? Same thing. And that goes both ways. Sometimes you're up financially and they're not. Or sometimes you're both up and it's like, well, I don't even need your money because I'm balling out of control. And I'm balling out of control. Food stamps is giving steaks. We've had all of those situations. Never made it like, I don't want to be with you anymore. But what happened is when situations kept repeating itself, like going into the red or not learning how to deal with money or savings or whatever, as our lives changed, we didn't have, and those are communication issues. People, marriages fail, and I Googled this, especially in the year of like when you're already in, it's like you're not having the conversations you used to have before. Like sit down, have a budget, open a bank account together, whatever you got to do, whatever has gone fall off, fix that. The pandemic created a lot of like, I don't want to deal with nothing, not this, not you, bitch, what? So that happened. I'm like, can we just save cash? Next thing I go, I save my cash in the drawer. I'm like, you took it? I'm like, you just blew my money. Like, you don't know how to save. And so those arguments did come up, and it was getting to the point of like, maybe you just, again, maybe this is not for us. Like, we don't even fight like this. And like, we keep getting into arguments and people like, I feel like he's trying to play me. And the other day, he's like, there, stop spending money or stop shopping. I mean, I did cut a lot of habits too. I'm like, we don't have it. Like, I don't know. Stop. I spend a lot of money on ads and stuff. He's like, you put out another ad, like you spend mad money on your business. It's like, yeah, I needed to push these slaves. Like, never let it break you up. I think like that was something that we said very hard, but it still gets us very close to the line of like, we're not going to speak right now. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm actually upset. Like, money makes it there because it's like, child, I don't have it. You can manage those things, like, business partners' money. Like, what did you steal the money for the business to go buy a yacht? And you didn't tell me, and you didn't even invite me on the yacht. Got you. It's like, it's like that kind of hat. You put on that hat. Like, let me see. Right now, we got to do with taxes again. And it's like, and we're moving right along. We got 2 lessons left. Lesson 5. This is the X-rated version of the video. Just kidding. But we're talking about sex now. Let's talk about sex, baby. Water. We're doing a lot out here. Make sure y'all stay hydrated. I feel like I said that a lot in 2023. We in January. Make sure y'all stay hydrated all year. When you're making content, keep a water next to you because it'd be a lot of energy. Intermission. Keep your sex life up. And I'm not kidding. It's like, so this goes back to because we were boyfriend and girlfriend for so long, and we've done, like I said, like Jerry and Elaine in Seinfeld, like we went way out and wild, right? Like we have done things where it's like, if you saw fucking somebody, I'm like, I didn't. I came right back. Same I came. I'm like, I know you wasn't. I know that's why you called me after the party because like you wasn't about. He's like, nah, but I'm like, so these girls dancing with you, they got you up, and now you want to come, and like we used to be outs on the outs and whatever. So we recognize it's like, okay, we got each other, which is very important in marriages. Like you need to be that, like let that be what it is that keeps you guys close, because I don't care. Sex is shit out here. Infidelity issues is like because you fall off and whatever. We've never had that because we don't need to. It's like we are still the best partners that we, you know what I mean? But when we talked about all the other things that we said, depression, money, arguments, your libido is what they call it, right? It's like the things that make you stay in that zone. When you're boyfriend and girlfriend, that's how you make up sex. And that doesn't really work when you're husband and wife. For us in our situation, it works for other people. Because the reason why we even intensified the argument was because we're husband and wife. So when it came to our sex life and certain things, situations, I'm like, we're not even those people anymore, neither. We're not using that as like how we used to. And I'm like, it's a problem. There were times where we never deny each other. So we both recognize that we both stop trying to initiate. So I'm like, so we just keep sleeping? I'm like one time where the argument came and I'm like, this is it. Because I told you a whole period cycle. I'm like, my period came. That's 3 weeks. I'm like, 3 weeks? We're sharing this bed and you didn't. So it was like a whole thing. And I'm like, let's not let this be the norm in this marriage, right? Don't fuck, and it was on me too, though. He's like, but you didn't have to, right? We had a whole conversation about initiation and who starts it and why is it always this? And obviously we deal with my grandmother here now too, and that'd be part of it. It'd be like, all right, I was just taking care of my grandma. So now it's like for me to transition to being here is like, I don't know, it's that too. We stopped going on vacation. We didn't do like a vacation, nothing like that. It was the pandemic. I'm like, we took stock of that whole thing. And I'm like, we used to go way out in wild. Like, the whole block in the apartment in Koreatown could hear you. It's like, oh, well, we just got married. Like, we didn't. We wouldn't get married yet. Like, where you guys just come from? You smell like seconds. Like, we came from the car, and yes, we did. It's like, yeah. So it's always had been there. So keep your in order. There's a lot of therapy and stuff that people could do and go. I don't think you should stop your marriage, but it's definitely something to start taking stock of. Don't let it go too long without you talking about it. Get it to the point of like, all right, it's a divorce level issue. Like, it's like, and that's what I've been trying to say. I'm like, should I bring it up to a divorce level issue? Make sure you ask them what's happening, ladies. Make sure you find out. And we've reached it to the end. Well, one more lesson for you guys. So this is maybe less than a lesson, more than just things that we're just understanding now, how we recognize ourselves amongst other married couples. We would fall under what they coined recently. It's called DINK, DINK. It's an acronym that stands for double income, no kids. Other people call it a kidless, childless marriage, but this is what's happening. There's couples who struggle with fertility, infertile couples, right? Those are the couples that when people say kidless, most of the time when you search that, you'll see people who are like, oh, you have to struggle with the loss of wanting to be a parent, not having parenthood because you want one because of whatever the situation is. That's not my situation. It's double income, no kids, because it's a kidless marriage by volunteer choice. Not like I take something to just make sure I never get married. It's like we had a conversation. We know what we're trying to do. It's not a theme-ass situation for us to be like, oh, we just willingly, because we take children very important. We come from childhood trauma ourselves. So it's like, we're still working on our own selves. There's days where he barely talks to, like, I'm like, you're not, like some people's situation is like, you're not mature enough to just enter parenthood. Have that conversation and move on. But in the world in which we live in, there's a statistic for it. In 2022, 47% of American households describe themselves as DINK. So we're in the more, like I say, not the most popular, but a burgeoning group of Americans, where it's like everybody, and the reasonings fall to some of the stuff that we discussed on this vlog already. Student loan debt, money, not just money, the cost it is to just maintain life, to maintain a kid, rent. You have to pay, you know what I mean? You have to make sure they have, not rent, childcare. That was the word I meant. Childcare, which people talking about the cost of it all the time. And it's like, you really need to make a hard choice if you want to upend your life just financially to create a kid. You have to really, really want to be parents. You have to really, really have your situations kind of solidified in a 2024 situation. I don't think any of us are at the space where it's like, look, this country could be in dictatorship the next 4 years. You want your kid to be, it's not something that ever really caused divorce for us, but it's definitely things that open up those spaces in our marriage where it's like, I don't know how you feel about it, but it's how I feel about it. We both have to be on the same page, because as parents, that's when you're moving like this now. Teacher, I do it all the time. A couple weeks ago, I had to file my first ACS case ever. I've been a mandated reporter in the state of California working in the after school program. I'm a mandated reporter here in the state of New York working inside as an instructional teacher. Children got to be protected out here. So I was like, I have a lot of kids already. The reason I'm putting that out there is because I think a lot of people who have kids who didn't prepare and whatever, and they're just dealing with their situations and whatever, they don't really know how to approach these conversations or like how to ask me, like, are you more lit? Of course I'm more lit than you. I don't have to feed this kid. Like, I don't have to look for a babysitter. Like, I'm just out here. I'm going to an audition. Like, I am free, in that kind of way. It's like, I don't want these problems that y'all be posting about all the time. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm giving those of us who feel the same way, who are dinks like me, 46% of the Americans, you're free to say what it is, what you want. The people who have kids and whatever, they made their own personal life choices and whatever. I know you guys are here. I'm an abortion rights activist. The reason I advocate for abortion rights in my adult life, not to say if I get pregnant now I'm going to have one, is like, I'm married now, my situation has changed. Just to let people know, not all your situation, not every single person that has a womb just want to fill one with a child just because we can. They're already turning people in this country back to handmaid, and this is where I wanted to like lead this kind of rant here. Me and my husband understands like the financial and the medical situation going on with Black women and Black mortality and whatever, and we have deep conversations. I'm like, if we come to a push-shove situation, you got to make a choice between me or the child. Who you going to pick? You're going to pick me. You're going to pick me, and there's going to be a dead baby. Let's just not do it. You know, he's more emotional than me. You know, I said dead baby, his face was just like, I'm like, right, but you're saying it. I'm gonna just pick you. I'm like, how you know in the moment? Because I would pick the baby. It's no shade. Like, you know. So like I said, it's conversations that we're having. More information is out here. This vlog hopefully helps those of us who didn't even know what to search, but search DINK. It's on Wikipedia. They explain where it comes from. It includes the word recession. It's like, we are millennials. This is our life. We are our generation. We're Gen Y. Gen Z is coming up behind us. And then there's Generation Alpha, right? We are the generation that exists here. The Gen X are the ones before us. A lot of them didn't have kids either. So it's like, it was a trend that was picking up since the 80s. And we just fall to it too.